Hello, I'm Robin Harford from eatweeds.co.uk. In this very short video, I just wanted to quickly take you through this amazing plant, Bramble or Blackberry, Rubus fruticosus, which we all know, most of us have gathered it in our childhood. So technically, if you picked bramble fruits when you were a child, you've been a lifelong forager. A granny forager, admittedly, but hey, who's checking that out? We all know what to do with the fruits. We can make jams with it, we can put it in vinegars, we can make wine with it, blackberry liqueur with it, lots and lots of ways. You can even use it in junket. But today what I want to talk about is the lesser known parts of blackberry that you might not have come across. So if you actually go into these little nibs in between where the leaf is attaching itself to the main stalk, where the other fruits are branching off, in the very early springtime, you get this tiny, tiny little feathery bud coming out, kind of leaf bud, and it's silver grey. And if you pick them, and sometimes you can get them quite long, wait for them to kind of sprout. But what you don't want is for the leaf to come out and open. And you pick those, and they have delicious coconut flavours. I sprinkle them on salads. But I'm really intrigued by the leaf of this plant. This plant has taught me quite a lot. Plants teach me, okay? Not in some kind of woo-woo way, just by observation. And one of the things that I found was that there's a plant called rosebay willow herb, or bombweed if you live in London. It was one of the first plants that came out after the bombings during the Second World War. And in Russia, it's known as, well, we call it Ivan tea, harking back to the Soviet days, but it's known as kapak tea. And the leaf is actually fermented the same way that black tea leaves are fermented. So it's got me kind of thinking initially. I kind of lodged that on the back burner. And then I went off and hit Burma and hung out with a traditional culture there called the Karen. And I met this guy in one of their kind of, well, I suppose it's a market, but it was like in the middle of nowhere. And he had lots and lots of piles of leaves in front of him. And one of them was black tea that he'd gathered, picked, and then fermented and was selling. But all the other leaves were tree leaves. Now in Southeast Asia, when you forage, you're not looking down at the ground particularly, you're actually looking up in the trees. A lot of the food and the medicine comes from the trees. And that's what he'd done. He basically fermented the forest tree leaves into different species and was selling them as drinks. People, non-alcoholic tea drinks. That's what tea is. And so I came back again, lodged it in the back burner. So we got Russia, we got Burma. And then I'm up in the north of England. I'm visiting a friend who originally came from Kenya. And I walk into her kitchen and she's got a pillowcase with a load of bramble leaves, blackberry leaf, in it. And I'm going, why have you got a pillowcase of bramble leaf hanging over your cooker, basically? And she turned to me like I was from Mars. And she said, well, I'm fermenting them, Robin. And it was like, okay, that's quite cool. Now we've got a third point. So in science, one of the kind of principles that I have is that if I can validate something 3 times, then I pay attention a lot more. So I paid a lot more attention to this. So I tried some of my friends' fermented bramble leaf and tea, and it was extraordinary. The flavour profile just eclipsed picking the fresh leaf or even using dried bramble leaf, putting it in a pot and pouring hot water on. This process of fermenting tree leaves and plant leaves, I think, is key to bringing out the kind of secret within plants if you're going to use them as tea. So I encourage you to experiment and play. If you've seen my eatweeds.co.uk blog, you'll see that I've experimented with things like beech leaf, dried, old ones. So they're kind of picked when they're in the autumn time, when they're brown. They've been on the tree a long time. There's a potential for fermentation going on. And some of those flavours can taste like lapsang or oolong teas. I mean, extraordinary tea flavours coming through. So that's the bramble leaf. So we've got the fruit, we've got the bramble leaf. The next bit that I want to take you through is actually the shoot that appears now. Now, bramble is actually an invasive species. We don't see it as an invasive because we love it. We love it for its fruits. We love it for what it does for all the other little bugs and critters and ecosystem that is around the plant. So obviously each plant is part of an ecosystem and everything is symbiotic. Funnily enough, so are we humans, although we tend to think and use our language as though, nature, like somehow it's out there. It's like us, nature, we are nature, so we are part of it. Robin personally, this is me, sees my place in the ecosystem as I'm just a grazing animal. That's all I am. I might think that I'm quite bright along with the rest of the human species, but we can't be that bright because we're kind of screwing up Mother Earth and Gaia, aren't we? So as we're part of the ecosystem, we are symbiotic with it. So Bramble, being an invasive species, grows 3 inches a day, or up to 3 inches a day. So there's an old Zen master called Basho, bless him, who said, if you want to meet bamboo, go sit with bamboo. When I say sitting with plant, what I actually mean is to sit with plant and to observe. And from observe, make hypotheses. That's how we kind of discover about the world. So the shoot you see in front of you is pretty big. And you might think, hang on, I'm not going to stick that spiky bit of green plant matter in my mouth. It's going to kind of destroy it. But it's not, because if you look here, you'll see that those thorns are actually very, very soft. And that's the secret to picking the bramble shoots, is to pick them when those thorns are not wounding. So they're very flexible, very soft. And what you do is basically you'll cut off that shoot, you'll peel it, you'll either eat it raw, or you can steam it and put butter and lemon juice over it. And they are truly delicious. And if you think how kind of problematic bramble can be for some gardeners, cutting the shoots off all the time is basically containing the plant. Remember what I said about my place in the world? I see humans as grazing animals. That is all we are. But I think it's a really nice way to reclaim our connection with the natural world. So I would really love you today or tomorrow, after watching this video, to get off the screen. It's my intention with everything I do, whether I post a photo up or I post a video up or I post an article up, is that you actually take it beyond just your head and that you go and reconnect with the natural world around you. I don't care whether you live in a high-rise flat in the middle of London, you can get out and find a park, or you can find a cemetery, you can find green space, and get engaged with plants today. It's really, really important. Reading about them, looking at pretty pictures on social media, watching videos like this, they have a place, but it's not the work. The work comes when we go outside and we engage with the beautiful green beings and we bring them back into our kitchens and we start playing with them as food, and maybe, if we're so inclined, to learn their medicine as well. So have a great time. If you want to watch more videos like this, or you want to listen to podcast interviews with some really fun people who are doing some extraordinary things with plants, or you just want to read the kind of stories, the history, the multiple uses that we have used plants as humans down through the centuries, traditional and modern, visit eatweeds.co.uk.